Tala Exiles, welcome to the first edition of the Still Sane pod. I'm here with legendary theory crafter and build analyzer, Dreamcore, and the best theorizer for Path of Exile 2 I've ever seen, Silver XYZ. Dream, Silver, welcome to the pod. Can we do brief intros for people who might not know who you guys are?
Hey, yeah, sure thing. Yeah, Dream, go ahead, mate.
Okay, sure. So for people who don't know who I am, I make content over on YouTube. It's mostly mechanics and interactions, explanations, some build breakdowns, occasional theory craft, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I also make content over on YouTube, and I'm almost the opposite to Dream in terms of my mechanical knowledge is not up there. I rely on Dream a lot every league, but I tend to do more sort of theory crafting stuff for PoE 2. I do a bit of art and design stuff.
But you've been playing PoE 1 far longer than I have, and I think even Dream, right, Silver?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I was in just after beta, so I've been like 10 years, I think.
Yeah. So that's quite a while.
Yeah, it's still grinding.
Oh, of course. And Dream, when did you start again? Was it around my time? It was Delirium, right?
Delirium League, yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Well, we won't bury the lead, everyone. Today, of course, we're one day out from the Necropolis League start. And one of the most important topics of discussion right now in the entire community, right? Whether it's content creators, whether it's just people playing the game. I'm sure over at GGG, they're talking about the same thing. It's league starters. So today, I'd like to talk with both Dream and Silver exactly how they'll be starting Necropolis, or if they don't know it, hopefully we'll be trying to, I don't know, sculpt down on which build they're going to choose. So, Silver, let's get you started off. I know you haven't talked a lot about Path of Exile 1, publicly, on videos and everything. Now is your chance. What are you starting as? Give us the mechanics, give us the rundown. I want to know.
Okay, so this one was actually really easy for me. So for those of you watching that don't know, me and Tri did a little Ascendancy Theory Craft battle off, and the forfeit for losing said battle off was that the other person got to pick their league starter. So I, trying to be gracious in defeat, I lost to Tri, and so I have had the easiest time this league start in the run up. He literally DM'd me and said, "Hey mate, how do you feel about playing Splitting Steel Champ?" And I was like, "Great, like you've done me a solid there." So I'm going to be league starting. Splitting Steel Champ. It's going to be an interesting one. There's a few build guides and stuff that I've sort of looked into and looking at what Mathil did in Tota with, I think it was Tota with like a savior build. And then I'd look at what Rue was doing as well. He'd done some cool stuff, especially like if you wanted to scale it up into like the tens of millions of DPS eventually, if I want to really push it. So yeah, I mean, pretty standard stuff. Just get a decent weapon. I think there's going to be some interesting changes with Sniper's Mark. That's kind of changed it up a little bit. The nerfs to Sniper's Mark. But apart from that, I mean, I've got a couple of POBs that I've been like bashing together. I'm sure I'll frantically do that over the next kind of like 24 hours as well. And yeah, that's kind of it. It was so easy for me. I'm not sure if I'm going to do hardcore or softcore yet. That's a conversation we can have in a little bit, I'm sure. But that will depend on how quickly I probably recycle that build idea. So yeah, we'll see.
I'm curious. Yeah, are you a one build kind of guy per league, or do you go for multiple?
Do you know what? I think this is going to be the first league that I'm streaming. And so I think because. Yeah, dude. Yeah. So exciting. Yeah, it's kind of exciting for me. And yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about it, but also really excited. And I think so what that's going to mean is I'm probably going to be playing like probably twice, maybe 3 times as much as I usually do at the beginning. So I've even booked some time off, which is going to be fun. So yeah, I think one build usually, and then I'll transition maybe 2 builds to halfway through the league. But this time we'll have to see, especially if we're going hardcore. It's going to be like I don't know. It might take me like 5 splitting steel champs. We'll
Nah,
see.
you'll be good. You'll be good.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I'll
mean,
just rely on your bids.
we're alluding a little bit to hardcore, and we have a resident SSF hardcore expert in the interview. Dreamcore, what are you going to be league starting as? Do you even know? And you can let everybody know that you are the SSF hardcore champ, essentially, out of us two at least.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I just I enjoyed that game mode, but I'm not fully decided yet, but I kind of want to just start Chieftain because Chieftain's one of those ascendancies for me that is just so comfortable in League start. You can just straight into Righteous Fire Act 2 and you just breeze through the campaign, get your explosions, and you're fine in maps. But one of the things that I think I might explore this league is Scorching Ray Totems, which is, I mean, that's a build from well before my time, at least.
I saw the
think
video
that
on
used to
it.
exist a while back. Yeah, so there's a bit of tech going on there, a bit of new tech with the Transfigured Gem,
Right.
which involves basically Scorching Ray has some unique mechanics that allow it to stack up debuffs from different entities, which include totems. So if you increase the duration of said debuff, you can continuously respawn totems to apply many debuffs, and they all stack. It's a little bit like poison in that aspect because you even scale it with temporal change as well.
Oh, right.
So you just stack as many debuffs as possible, and it gets ramping damage. So yeah, it's pretty. I think it's pretty decent. I think the clear's a bit of a problem with Scorching Ray, so Chieftain is there for that. And obviously, if I'm playing hardcore, Hierophant is slightly lackluster, especially if it's a non-mana build.
Yeah. Now,
So that's something I'm looking at the moment. Yeah.
It's a COD piece, is it 89 in the chat, says Scorching Ray is totally the best skill ever. Now, from my little interaction with the skill, I've seen some footage of it. It does look a little clunky. Is that kind of gone when you're using totems and it's not self-cast, or?
No, it is clunky. The thing is with Scorching Ray, especially with self-cast, the Transfigured Gem is actually quite good if you get good cast speed, because it has such high front loaded damage. You can basically just sweep packs and the debuff stays on them and they die, right?
Oh,
but with
okay.
totems, the big problem, the clunkiness is if you drop a totem right in front of a rare mob and the beam locks onto a rare mob, there's like, mobs near the rare mob that just get stuck. They're just like stragglers.
Right.
They don't get caught in the beam.
Mm.
Which is where Chieftain explosions come in, right? That's
Exactly.
That's sort of the thought behind that.
Okay.
But you can be a bit selective with your totem placement. If you don't place it right on top of a rare mob, it'll like sweep the screen first and then get to the rare mob. So there's some ways you can play around it.
Okay. Well,
Do you think it's worth the payoff when you do get it right? Like when the totem AI does lock on and it all lines up. I imagine when you get these debuffs stacked, like,
well, yeah,
I can
that's
imagine
it.
it's pretty
I think.
powerful.
I mean, if I was to compare it to, because another build that I tested a while back, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, I was testing Righteous Fire Body Swap Chieftain, which is basically a normal Righteous Fire Chieftain, except for you stay stationary most of the time because you're just blinking around with Body Swap, so you get to keep that minus res on all of the enemies. It's kind of nice bit of synergy there. But Righteous Fire Chieftain is extremely ZDPS. It is like it's the definition of ZDPS. It doesn't have like any single target damage at all. Doesn't matter whether you play Fire Trap or self-cast Scorching Ray or Body Swap. It just doesn't have any damage. But it can get really tanky, and it's a very fun mapper. So the idea behind Scorching Ray Totems is that you solve the problem of single target damage, because it does have that ramping single target damage.
Yeah,
that's the idea there.
I did the when the Chieftain was first changed, I ran a RF, like, what's it, Hinekura's Fury? Is it?
Yeah.
Ran that, and it was just like, I mean, Expedition was amazing, right? Like that was the first. I think that might have been one of the first like big bomb leagues as well. So it was just like perfect lineup. But yeah, single target was brutal, and it's like, I don't know, people talking about running worm flasks and stuff. I was like, I hate the idea of dropping worms.
Yeah,
or anything.
worm blast Chieftain. Yeah, that's actually a thing. Yeah, you can try and do that. I actually tried to do that last league a little bit.
How did that go?
I mean, it's just really hit and miss. It's like It's basically an idea to help increase your single target damage, because you get to a boss in a map, or you get to an essence mob, and instead of standing there for 30 seconds or 40 seconds just doing whatever to it, you can just drop a bunch of worms and hopefully you hit that 5%, and then the mob dies a lot faster.
Did you find it proc pretty often?
Not often enough.
Exactly. Right.
Not often enough is the answer. Yeah.
I gotta poke on this a little bit too, Dream, because we first really spoke a lot after that big chieftain rework in 3.22, and I remember a lot of people were dooming on it. I think, is it one of the most popular ascendancies now due to like the Righteous Fire pop off, the Fulcrum build from last league? Is it really just the defenses and that popping node that's really helped it out with clearing? Is that it?
Yeah, last league was a little bit of an anomaly, I think.
Okay.
I expect Chieftain's popularity to take a giant nosedive this league, because I think that the whole magic finding thing in low tier maps especially was just Chieftain's specialty. You could equip Defiance of Destiny. You didn't need to really spec into any kind of damage. You only need to kill like one small mob and you get this like chain reaction of self-ignite explosions, which is basically exactly how that build was functioning. You don't need to do anything spectacular with it. And you just couldn't die in those maps because you had Defiance of Destiny equipped.
I'm curious, you think MF is going to die? Because I think it might be back bigger than ever unless they've done some hidden nerfs.
It's not going to die. There will always be people magic finding, but in Affliction, everybody was magic finding because the Wisps were just completely broken.
Yeah,
let's be honest. There was uniques. I saw more uniques that league than I've seen maybe in like the previous 10 leagues combined. It's just completely ridiculous.
Well, that's
you saw it on Reddit, right? It was like, that's what everyone was saying. It was like, finally the league, I got 3 Mage Bloods, just like average players saying, like, what? Like, what is happening?
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. So I think that's why Chieftain was so popular. There will be people playing the Self-Ignite Fulcrum build this league, because that's a great build. It's still very good for mapping as well.
Yeah. And charms were a big part in that too, right? With the Chieftain's build. And actually we got not true confirmation, but Mark said they want to kind of work in charms in a different way, perhaps, into Path of Exile, not on an ascendancy or on the tree. I almost think it could be like a trinket slot, kind of like Heist. They add charms from like to ritual or something like that. That'd be wild. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think of Sanctum, right? Like, and maybe I know they don't like doing this, but maybe it's like a bound on pickup thing, or like I don't know, and I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that, but like, how do you give that much power? Because I love the idea of like you say, charms, like you have a little slot or something, but yeah, how do you give that much power? Like that which was taken, like incredible character power. Like that charm alone is just insane.
Okay, both of you hear me out. Finally, Path of Exile implements, rune words from Diablo 2 and totems from Last Epoch as charms, like a charm system. They tone down the power tremendously. Maybe not everyone has, like, what was it? 2 affixes at max. Maybe it's just 1 affix. But, I feel like that would be a little interesting, because that's one thing that PoE is missing. I thought that D2 did really well, and now Last Epoch did as well with the totems. That'd be kind of cool. Have a little, like, a inventory you can sort out, with your different charms. I like that.
What do you think, Dream?
I think it's too much power creep, personally.
Yeah.
I think so. I did think that which was taken was going to go core. I thought it would be rebalanced before it went core, and I think it made sense to go core as like a big boss drop. They probably could have put it in the game as like a new Uber boss drop. I know that they've made new uniques for that exact purpose, and I think they've only shown 2 of them so far, or 3 of them. Yeah, they showed the Shaper Belt, the Exarch gloves, and the Eater of Worlds helmet, right? The rage conversion helmet.
Yeah.
So yeah, they probably could have put that jewel in the game as a Uber boss drop, and it could have just gone in as is because it's way too OP. But realistically, I think they made the right choice to remove that and charms from the game because they're just. I know that people will be disappointed with that. I know that people were very disappointed that there's no backpack coming back. You know, the extra bag spaces. But and you know, I kind of see both sides of it. You know, because people like to complain about those sort of things because you had this extra bag slot and now it's gone. But all of these decisions, like how much inventory space you have on a standard character, things like that, they all go into making the core makeup of how Path of Exile works. And if you start budging a little bit on these things, you know, they add a few inventory slots here. Here's another equipment slot now. Like now your character can wear pants, and you get like an extra. You know, you can get like 2 or 3 affixes on it. Like there's just. It all adds up. It starts to really add up. And one thing that they've been doing really well in terms of Path of Exile's balancing, I think, ever since probably around Scourge time, is this whole here's a really fun league. Like you get these cool toys to play with, and now it's gone. And I think a lot of people have kind of got used to that, and now they're already going into a league expecting to play with those new tools, and then it's gone away at the end of the league. People don't really expect things to go core anymore. They just kind of think, well, it could go core. Whereas before that league, back in the first sort of 5 leagues that I played, everything went core immediately in the next league. It just went core straight away. Like Delirium went straight core. You know, Heist went straight core. Harvest went core, and it was way too OP, so they had to like pull some of that power back. So I think
probably a turning point. Don't you think I think
Yeah.
Harvest was a turning point. That whole and like the kind of 2 leagues it took to figure that out afterwards, and even longer. Really, it completely changed the item meta, right? Like the crafting meta.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was a realization that the system that they were using wasn't ideal because when they add something to the game which everybody loves, but it's just obviously not a great addition to the game in the long run. And then they have a big problem because they have to then remove that thing from the game, and people were like, "Well, why did you add it into the game like that in the first place?" So I think they have a good system going right now. It does. There is still a lot of power creep in the game, a lot of power creep every league because people forget about things like Eternal Damnation comes into the game and now everybody can get it. Defiance of Destiny comes into the game and now everybody can get that. Before, we didn't have these like crazy OP amulets that are just insane defensively, right? Or like the replica Dragon Fang's Flight for +3 gem levels to a specific gem. Like, these items are just insanely powerful. They are ridiculous. So that is power creep every league. That is layering power creep that's building up.
Right.
But I think it's a lot better the way it is right now.
They're being a lot more pointed and intelligent with what they add into the game. Like you guys are saying, Harvest was added right after, Expedition to everything. And now they'll find smart ways to put past league mechanics into the game. We saw that with Trial of the Ancestors and Omens. It was dropped into Affliction in a fun little way. Now we're seeing tattoos in Necropolis in an interesting way. They're not just purely dropping all this content, all these rewards as in some manner where you can earn them very easily and, like you guys are saying, increase power massively. They're doing it in, I think, very smart ways, and they're thinking a lot about, okay, what does this actually mean to Path of Exile? How accessible is this? I prefer that with rewards. I'm one of the content bloat advocates. Just like a lot of content, I think that's really cool. That's one of the wins of Path of Exile. There's almost infinite content. But on the reward front, I think this is definitely a positive for the game. Definitely. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, good discussion. And I just realized, oh my gosh. So we talked about your 2 potential starters, and I'm gonna say I'm glad no repeat starters, guys. I'm thinking about 2 right now. So I have one which a lot of people have given a certain content creator hate for. I don't see it. And that is Lightning Strike Raider, particularly from Local. It seems like a great build. I've never played Lightning Strike before. I know there are the Champion and Trickster variants, but this Raider one looks a little bit zoomy. Oh my gosh, I see chat moving pretty fast now that I said that. It's a Ranger.
Spicy.
Is it trigger
It's a
word?
spicy
Trigger
build.
word. You said the trigger word. Yeah, that's it.
It's a spicy build. So, it's not for everyone, 100%. But I'm,
Yeah.
for the most part, I'm like a single build sort of dude. So with my league starter, I don't need something that blasts through the campaign and then gets to pinnacles on, in 12 hours or something like that, even 7 hours. I'm fine with doing something that's a little bit slower, is more difficult, and is quite the build up. So that's choice number one for me. And then the other is Volcanic Fissure of Snaking Juggernaut, which sounds fun as all hell with strength stacking. And that seems like a league long build project for me too. Plus, I love melee. I got a new computer last league or at the end of last league. So Volcanic Fissure of Snaking seems like the perfect skill to test the limits of my new rig. So
Yeah.
those are my two choices. What do you guys think? Should I go with the Raider or the Jug?
Well, I just want to pick up on something, right? Isn't it funny? And this, maybe we'll talk about this later if we get onto PoE 2 or anything like that. But like, isn't it funny that you were like, oh, I love melee, so I'm going to pick a lightning strike or a volcanic fissure of snaking build, right? You think, are those builds melee? Anyway, I don't want to open that can of worms too much, but
Not necessary. There's no real. The only true melee build I was thinking about was Dual Strike Slayer, but that seemed
yeah,
too
you're
melee.
probably right.
I was like, I don't know. I don't know about
Too
that.
melee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually I looked at while I was waiting for you to be ordained with my league starter for 3.24. I was looking at Loghole's Lightning Strike as well for the very same reasons that you just said. Like, I think it feels like a real project, and if you don't play tons and tons of builds each league, I totally get where you're coming from. Where I would always love kind of really battling through the campaign, and I know this is not for everyone, but I would love to kind of like and really every craft felt important, and then you'd get into maps and you'd be like, oh, it feels terrible, but then you'd get that one item. This was on sort of softcore trade, so I could afford to take those liberties, I guess. But yeah, and then yeah, Volcanic Fissure. I mean, both of those they sound awesome, man. That's melee heaven. I'm totally with you. I'm a bit of a melee Andy myself.
Hell yeah. Dream, what do you think about those?
I mean, I'd love to be a melee Andy, but GGG just doesn't want it to be so. I think, which is a little bit sad. But
Choice.
well, okay, look, I'll be honest. Raider on League Start is pretty fun. Like that ascendancy, you just click some nodes and you're just boosting. Like it's very
Right.
fast at League Start, and it's really nice. It's especially nice if you want to like specialize into something like heist, for example. And you just want to do things really quickly. And yeah, Lightning Strike's fun. I've played Lightning Strike before. That's a fun skill.
Right.
Volcanic Fissure of Snaking, I can't really talk much on that because I haven't actually played that.
Just
it does
seen
look
a lot
fun.
of videos on it, and it looks so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look pretty fun. Speaking of melee, I mean, what is going on there? Like the call to arms thing, right? This really tilted me pretty big time. Actually, this is kind of sad. So they got call to arms support being added to the game. The preview is showing multiple war cries going off, okay, all at the same time. Then we have the Zizaran interview, and Mark says it's one war cry, and the text has been changed on the gem now. It's one war cry. They've lowered the mana multiplier, which is nice, but let me just, because I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here, okay? The call to arms support is, and the removal of the call to arms keystone is actually just a melee nerf and a buff to everybody else. Because here's the thing: every melee build before, like if you look at the prominent melee builds, Bone Shatter Juggernaut, Bone Shatter Slayer, they all just have the multi strikes coming in from Ancestral Cry on their left click as an instant skill, right? They didn't have to. There was just a one socket. That was it. Done. Now they need to use an extra socket to get that same functionality. They have to pay more mana as well. And the whole idea of that new support, in my mind, was that it would enable builds that wanted to use multiple war cries. It wouldn't hinder them because they would use them instantly. And now, like, slam builds were potentially on the table because you could use 3 war cries at the same time and keep them up. And instead, this war cry is one war cry, and it's literally a buff to everybody else because all these guys, all these DD players at the top of the tree over there, right? they couldn't reach the call to arms keystone. They weren't using Enduring Cry, and now they can literally just use Enduring Cry, get free endurance charges. What's going on there? I mean, come on.
It's gonna blow.
It's pretty wild. Between that and I'm gonna say it, the unnecessary Cleave of Rage nerf, I'm not quite sure. I would have asked that if I was this. I would have gone in and be like, okay, come on. All right, so this left mouse button click nerf, the Cleave of Rage nerf, but we also want to make sure like melee feels good. I thought it felt very good last league as Cleave of Rage. I got that all the way through 39 out of 40 challenges essentially. I just couldn't do Ubers. Felt great.
Yeah.
You got a 27% or something nerf just like that, just with the skill. I'm not quite sure what the thought process is, especially when a lot of the common builds, like you said, Detonate Dead, are just getting buffed league after league and everybody's playing it.
Yeah. New corpses, right? The new corpses.
Yeah. It's really
like,
really cool for them.
I mean, Detonate Dead just has this problem where it's like the way that skill scales, just it's very hard for them to nerf it, I would say, and also the whole concept of it is just difficult to balance across the board because you've always got that thing where you know monster life is scaling the damage, which means that you don't really need to invest into much damage because you just gain damage like naturally. You're on the same amount of damage each map tier that you go up because that's just how the skill works. Monster life goes up, your damage goes up.
Exactly.
So it's I don't know. Yes, they could come in and just say, right, DD deals half the damage now, like the percentage is halved, and people would still play it because it would probably still be very good. So they could.
Maybe
it
is. Maybe they do just need to tweak the numbers and stuff, and I think it will. Obviously when anything gets enough attention, like over time, right? It eventually gets kind of there's something will come of it. But I think that's like you're saying about the melee stuff, right? It seems like Mark's hyper aware of it. It really I think it was literally brought up in the Ziz interview, and not specifically like the Warcry thing. I can't remember that, but. Like they are very aware, it seems, of what's going on. They even apologized about the left click thing, right? Kind of, and just said we messed that up. That was undercooked, and so I do think, I guess I don't want to shield too much here, but I do have so much faith. Like they are aware, they're gonna work it out, and but yeah, in terms of the Warcry thing, like. I don't know. I don't know where the thinking was on that. It's, sometimes for us, it's like so hard to see. Like, you think, okay, is this just a mistake? Because obviously, it's a big game, it's a complex game, they make mistakes and stuff. But then also you think, like Mark was saying, there is a philosophy of what they're trying to achieve with this automation stuff. And I can totally get that because I understand the philosophical point, at least, that they made of like, it doesn't feel great to just have stuff on left click. Like that shouldn't be the way that we approach automation from a design point of view. And I know that's kind of I'm getting sort of into a bit like Fugazi, like heady territory here. But it's I understand the philosophy, but I completely agree with you. Like it's just a bit of a whiff considering how many hits they've just like smashed out the park this league. It's just like.
You know what just popped into my head? I'm a little curious. Do you think this is a little bit of PoE 2 design coming into PoE 1? Because in PoE 2, socket pressure isn't really a thing. Whether it's in terms of gear or the sheer number of actual skills you're able to use. I think Mark has a pretty good finger on the pulse of PoE 1. I mean, that is evident. But I wonder if that is a consideration. They're doing a lot of automation in PoE 2. He's doing design for that too. I wonder if that's how it seeped in, like, or got past everyone, and everybody's just like, it will totally go over fine. It's going to go well. And then, of course, the biggest uproar I've seen, honestly, since Lake of Kalandra. I mean, the chat during the reveal, it was like 150,000 people. It was revert left mouse button, revert left mouse button. So, I mean, people are angry. So.
It was bonkers. It felt like something was happening. When like you see all the birds on a beach like start flying or something, and you think like, oh no, there's a big wave coming. Like it was like seeing that in the chat was freaky. I was like, because my brain hadn't connected like LMB to left mouse button at first. I was like, what is everyone freaking out about?
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah.
I think the concept of those gems and removing LMB instant skills is actually good design wise, but I just don't understand the balance of Call to Arms, and what I really don't get is that new keystone that they've replaced Call to Arms keystone with. Like it is like, what is going on there? Seriously,
I haven't even seen it.
It's so basically old Call to Arms. It would make all of your war cries share cooldowns, and then it would make your war cries instant. So the idea there, you just use one war cry, typically on left click, obviously because that was the functionality at the time. And you get the benefits of that war cry every time it comes off cooldown. So, and obviously they've replaced that with the support now. The new keystone is something which makes it so war cries don't exert your attacks anymore, but the buff that the war cry provides is applied to your allies around you. So this is either a minion keystone, which is very bizarre location on the tree, by the way, or B, it's like an aura bot type thing, but both options are kind of bad because, like, the buffs, you have to kind of go a lot into war cries to get the buffs up to a good par.
Yeah.
And for example, like getting a permanent enduring cry buff on everybody would be quite a big investment, and it would be pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
I don't know. Like, I think it would have made sense if they left the instant Warcry keystone in the game. They've already taken away left mouse button functionality. Yeah. Like those builds, like General's Cry, like Corrupting Cry, they would need to use that on a different button, right?
Yeah.
I'm just hearing that I have one more passive point on the tree now, Dream. I mean, you know, I lost a socket or two, but I have another passive point. Isn't that cool?
Endlessly positive. Try the endlessly positive exile. I'm just looking at the node now, and it's like, I'm like, oh yeah, obviously it's for aura bots, right? It's for Warcry aura bots, the new meta. Of,
surely that's what it's for.
Opium Overload is bringing up a really good point in the chat. That part of the tree, I mean, with this new helmet that drops from Uber Eater, that changes rage into an attack-based buff into a spell-based buff. I mean, casters might just be branching right over to that part of the tree. What do you guys think about that?
Spellblade of Rage.
Yeah,
let's go.
Seriously, I want to try that. If I can do 2 builds this league, I want to try that. The video you made me so excited, Dreamcore, about the helmet. Oh my god,
the helmet, yeah. I mean, that part of the tree, it has, what does it have for spell builds? It has there's some physical damage clusters there. Maybe if you're playing a fizz damage build.
Yeah.
It probably would be a fizz damage build on Berserker as well, because you're going to be taking the node on Berserker that gives you flat fizz with crit chance and multi. Because that's generic, it's not tied to attacks.
Would it be like Exsanguinate? Or is that crazy? Like, can you imagine
I have no idea what it would be. I haven't really thought about it too much.
A Berserker just spurting out blood, you know.
I know that's going to do insane damage. I can tell you that much.
Yeah,
that's going to be some giga damn helmet right there. That's going to make a Berserker do a lot of damage, a lot more than it would be if it was playing melee. By the way.
Okay, man. Stop. Come on, you got to stop it. Stop killing melee. Cleave of Rage is so much fun, or it was. I'm gonna log on my Cleave of Rage character sometime during the weekend and just compare AoEs. I just want to see how much smaller it is. Oh.
Yeah, because the AoE wasn't big enough, right? No. Like it was so small before.
Tiny. I thought it was lovely, guys. Oh, what a satisfying build. I'm glad I got to play it. But I did want to talk a little bit more about starters before we get just into the new content and everything, and talk a little bit about that. There's been a lot of drama, especially this league, really with content creators, I think. Big ones, a lot of people talking about bait builds and, bad league starter this, you're gonna never make it to maps that, and I'm curious, I think this is all based around the community's general viewpoint on what a league starter should be able to do. And while I don't think that's an objective sort of thing, a lot of the PoE community sees it as so. So I'm curious, I want to pose the question to both of you. Silver, I want you to go first. What do you think the goal of a league starter should be for the general community? What do you think the consensus is there?
Okay, so I am not a build guide creator, so I just want to preface that to start with, and I think that's important.
Safe space.
A safe space, safe space. Cheers, guys. But I would say it's sometimes when I look at these things, when there's like contention between two groups and stuff, I always try and think of it from like a motivations point of view, and like what are the incentives, because often it's a misalignment of incentives sometimes, and like a lot can be misconstrued in that. This I hope this will make sense, like where I'm going with this. But so I feel like creators have an incentive because of the way that content gets like, I think it's important to acknowledge, like, creators have an incentive to try and like make their league start as interesting, exciting, and kind of juicy as possible, because of the way that like the algorithm works and all that stuff, right? And that's a whole other debate. But there's obviously also creators have integrity, and like I've spoke to a few build creators in the lead up to this league and stuff, and you see how much it pains them. It pains them when they're trying to make something great, and they're genuinely coming at it to like give someone the best league starter they can, and then maybe like one thing's accidentally ticked in their POB and they get pulled apart and stuff. And I think this kind of witch hunt culture should probably, obviously you hear the more vocal side of it, because the loudest voices tend to be the most extreme ones. But yeah, I'm not like, it's not nice to see like a lot of build creators just get like hunted, for no reason. So I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of like the going back to the incentives thing, it's like they obviously want to make something exciting, and people want to click on something exciting. You see something, you're like, oh, what is the new thing that someone's figured out? And so I think we just all have to be a little bit like, give a bit of leeway to each other, and the audience have to kind of like give a bit of leeway to these creators. I know what, like, I try to, because I'm a consumer of build guides myself, where I just think, okay, you are a person, like, you're human, and obviously there's going to be mistakes in this. And in a way, I sometimes think that's part of the fun of it, because I don't know about many people, but I tend to use a build guide as a template, and I think a lot of people do this. And then you play through the game, you find an item, you maybe switch it up, and you find the build yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And these things are just really good, like, scaffolding for you to climb up, And so yeah, I think it's a bit of a weird. I totally see what you're saying, and I've seen it on Reddit, and I've seen it in the comments and stuff of certain people's videos, and I just think relax, man, just relax.
I think that's wholesome.
It
Yeah.
ain't that deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dream,
Yeah.
what do you think?
I
That's
think,
my 2
so
cents.
I think there's two sides to this story, because there are some league start guides which are a little bit ridiculous. Like, for example, here's someone showcasing a character with a mage blood, and this is meant to be a league starter. Like, that is actually a thing that happens every league, by the way. Like, I see it every league. So
Right.
if someone's being told off for that, okay, it's meant to be a league starter. They know full well they have a mage blood equipped, right? You know what I'm saying? So but yes, there shouldn't be a witch hunt type thing. That's not right at all. But I do want to say that, for new things to come around, for new builds to come around, for new mechanics to be found by people do need to give everybody a bit of breathing space to be able to try things out. Like, if you don't allow people to cook these builds, right, and you just shut it down straight away before anything is tested, then how are you going to find something? In a game like Path of Exile as well, there is so many things left undiscovered that people haven't found yet. So many interactions between different things that are left undiscovered. So how are you going to let those things become visible to everybody if someone comes up with an idea, and yeah, okay, if the idea isn't immediately fantastic, that's fine. You don't need to just shut them down. Let them do their thing. Let them.
Yeah.
There's no need to go on the aggressive about it.
Yeah.
Especially as well when a lot of the time, like, for example, I don't make build guides, right? I've made like one build guide on my channel, which was something in Ancestor League, which I was really proud of. It was a fun build, so I decided to make a build guide of it. But whenever I do like testing for a mechanic, like for example the Scorching Ray thing,
Mm.
I'm not presenting it as a league starter. I'm not saying like, here's the best, the new amazing tech. You got to play it at league start. It's insane. Like, it's so good.
Mhm.
I'm just saying, here's the tech. This is what I'm going to do. Like, I don't know how it's going to go because I haven't had time to test it, by the way. I've watched a few videos of other people playing it. So I don't know how it's going to play. Like, so there isn't a thing there where you can't come on my video afterwards and say to me I've baited you into a bad build, right?
Mhm.
Like I didn't even make, I haven't made a build guide. I'm just saying, like, there's a very specific phrasing. Some people put in their title like, this is the league starter, and there's a guy blasting tier 16s with a mage blood, right?
Yeah.
And then you got some people who are presenting this thing as some interesting tech. Maybe it's an idea, a concept, and they're just saying, "Here's what I'm doing. Like, it's a fun concept, and that's what I'm gonna do. Like, follow along if you want, basically."
I think you hit right on it.
Don't sell it.
I think you hit right on it. It's all in the presentation. All of it.
Yeah.
Every single piece, and I think all of this hypersensitivity and the drama stems on that presentation and how people present themselves to the greater community. And the Path of Exile community is pretty diverse. There's a lot of different creators, I think more so than a lot of other games out there, especially for a game as niche as Path of Exile. There's just so many different ideas out there. And if someone misrepresents what their build is capable of, it's going to make a lot of people angry. And Dreamcore, you said, people blasting T16s with a Mage Blood on a starter build that's showcased all the time. And then there might be someone who is putting a build out there and, maybe it's a good build, but they make a mistake. And people will treat the person who makes a genuine mistake almost the same as the person who is intentionally misleading as many people as possible to get those clicks. And it just all drums up the issue more and more and more, which is unfortunate. I do agree that witch hunts are definitely not necessary. And, this league, I think somebody in a Discord I'm in touched on it and said, there's not a lot of new starters right now. Like, a lot of people aren't experimenting and everything. There's a lot of the same stuff going on. So people are replacing the genuine new experimentation that we had last league with the transfigured gems with the drama. I think there's a little bit of truth to that, unfortunately, especially with a whole class of creators building out, like the detonate die dead guides and throwing them out there. But it's just so curious to see. And being in this for like the first real time and participating with like talks with other people, content creators, I just didn't realize how volatile the community might be. As someone who's always been on the outside, and yeah, I'd consume a few build guides every league, I didn't realize how deep the rabbit hole went until like actually speaking with others and looking at POBs and reading the Twitter threads and everything. And the Path of Exile build subreddit now is it's a little I don't even think spicy is the right word. I think people are getting a little aggressive on it, unfortunately, which sucks. So
look, there's in any space, there's always going to be a few like vocal. I know you're talking about a trend, and I do think there is a point to it, but I think we just have to remember as a community, like we're all just people. I think most people are super reasonable, and I think you find that, right? Like when like you just said, I've only just started making content really, and it's been so clear in the feedback, and you see it in your comments and stuff. You'll get one bad note for like every 50 good comments or something generally.
yes,
people are great. It's just we have a tendency to focus on this stuff. So yeah, I think I agree. It's a shame, but yeah.
Oh, guys, I put out a Cleave of Rage build guide. I was expecting 50% dislikes, hate comments everywhere. 0 hate comments. It's at like 20k views or something, and it has a 98% like to dislike ratio. If you present
show off.
the info, I was shocked, guys. If you present the info like in the first 30 seconds, and you're like, okay, guys, here's the rundown. Like, I think Localhold did the same thing with his Lightning Strike Raider. He's like, hey guys, this is a league starter for experienced players. It's going to be difficult to run through, but it is possible. You're going to need to do these set of things, but it works. I think that's perfectly fine as long as people are very transparent with what's going on. And I agree. I think a lot of people are. There might just be some bad apples out there. So I agree with you, Silver. Dream,
Yeah,
did
I
you have
think
any last words on this before we move on to some?
oftentimes, it's there's, like you said, it's a few bad apples mostly. I think they're the people that are the loudest.
Yeah.
And obviously that kind of creates, especially when it's like a content creator and there's like a bit of degrading going on, this kind of stuff. Like it's just not healthy at all. Like I think like I said, I think if people are experimenting with things, if they're not presenting it as something which is like absolute fact, then just let them cook.
Yeah.
Let them cook.
Let them
Scorching Ray
cook.
Totem's going to be Pog. Is that what you're saying, Dream? What I've understood from everything you've just said is I should play Scorching Ray Totem.
Yeah, like for example, right? So the Scorching Ray totems, right? Here's the thing. So let's make a video later about Scorching Ray totems, right?
Yeah.
And in that video, I talk about how the damage scales, which is basically when you start putting down totems, it does very little damage, right? And then when after you've been ramping for like 6-7 seconds, the damage is quite good. Now, I will explain that in the video, but someone may come along and just not even watch the video. This happens all the time. This is actually one of the big problems with this whole topic is that someone comes along and they don't watch the video. They just click the POB in the description. Right. They open the POB, okay? And now they start ranting about the POB because the build is, bad, quote unquote bad.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, it's being misconstrued at that point. You're not.
Yeah.
It's not being seen correctly, right? If someone's watching the video, they understand what the person's thought process is behind that content.
Right.
Whatever
it's lacking
it is.
the context. Yeah.
Yeah, so and that happens all the time. People just take the POB, okay, POB is bad, and then they tell their entire audience the POB is bad, and then that audience maybe has some, as you said, some bad apples come along, and they start brigading that content creator. That's how you get the hateful comments. That's how you get the drama.
Oof.
So yeah, it's it's one of the, I mean, I don't really know what the solution is to this. It's just I think this sort of thing exists in many other games as well.
It's human.
It's not
Seriously.
just just human. Yeah,
everywhere.
exactly.
It's all good.
Yeah,
it is.
Love will save the day.
Yeah, you guys were mentioning it a little bit. I don't know who said it. Somebody said let them cook in regards to build creators and everything. But I also want to talk a little bit about Grinding Gear Games and how they absolutely cooked this league. And I think it's because they had to delay PoE 2. They wanted to make a banger league for 3.24 to make sure everybody was hyped as all hell. And I think they really succeeded on that front. And I'm not even talking about the league itself. I think all the core game additions that we've seen, I know we haven't played it yet. We'll play it tomorrow. Some of us will play it tomorrow. I probably won't make it to maps by end of day tomorrow, but some of us will be there. Some of us will see the new Scarab systems, the T17 maps, I'm sure, by the end of like day one. What do you guys think about all this content that was added into the core game? Like Scarabs, T17 maps, the new penultimate bosses. How wild is that?
Dude. Yeah, wild is the word. Wild is the word. And that's been my running theory as well, man, is like they knew they needed to give us something good. I think because obviously, like you said, they've been aware for a little while that the beta was going to be pushed, needed to be pushed most likely. Yeah. Which maybe we'll talk a little bit about later. But yeah, I think that's right decision. Obviously 100% support that decision. So yeah, this new league, man, crazy. I mean, just Scarabs alone, like how long you got, right? Like Ziz and Mark sat down to sort of do like, I think they had like 10 different topics to talk about, and they just spoke about Scarabs basically for like nearly 3 hours. So yeah, I mean, suffice to say, I'm sure everyone who's watching this has seen that. You guys have seen that, I imagine. Like, yeah, Scarabs are crazy. I think, like, I don't know, the stuff that really stood out to me was like just the amount of content. I think what really surprised me was not only are we now getting way more access to extra content on the Atlas, like basically doubled almost the percentages of, like Breach, you can now just almost get 100, you can basically get 100% of almost any mechanic. Mm-hmm. Then with like the Scarabs on top of that, it's just that multiplication I think is going to be, I'm really struggling to imagine. Like I'm thinking of running Breach, I enjoy running Breach, and just kind of because of the quality of life as well. And it's like, yeah, you can just get like dozens of breaches that can all be Cholula. And then it's like it's hard to imagine. I think the one that really stood out to me actually was like strong boxes. The amount of strong boxes, and then specking into like the ambush. I think there's like a more scarabs drop as ambush scarabs.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know. There's just or like even like domination shrines. Like the amount of extra content, and then the level that you can scale that content now because of just the number of extra times it's occurring just seems completely busted, insane. It's the stuff I love about this game. So yeah, just super hyped. Like, and I'm almost trying not to watch too much about it and theory craft it all too much. I've got my Atlas trees and stuff that I'm thinking of running, which we can sort of talk about maybe. But yeah, that's just the most immediate thing, obviously. Let alone new Ubers and that sort of all those
That's my jam.
T17s. Yeah, I mean that might be like when I eventually get onto like a mana stacker. I'm thinking of going like a mana stacker build, like maybe wait for someone to figure out how that works and pick that up. But yeah, crazy.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, it's all very exciting. Dream, are you on the same page? Scarabs are just chef's kiss.
Oh yeah, Scarabs looked really fun, and also I like the removal of Sextants. I didn't like that mechanic at all.
Praise.
So that's but. Yeah, Scarabs are really. What I like about the new Scarabs are that they're not like really formulaic like the old ones were. The old ones were very boring, like super boring. Here's a mechanic, it's just like, and here's a mechanic, and it's a little bit better, and then it's a little bit better again. Like these new Scarabs are. I think they've got so much extra design space there now where they can just add new Scarabs to the game, and they're just completely wild. Like you could just imagine, like next league, here's 4 new Scarabs, and they're nothing we've seen, right? They're just completely crazy, weird things. Like the one Scarab that Mark showed, it was the Black Morrigan from Affliction. It turns up if Einhar is in your map, right? So you can capture the Black Morrigan, and then I assume there's a new craft associated with that beast, that's really cool. I mean, I don't know what that craft is going to be. We'll have to wait and see.
It's not that which was taken. What is it?
It's not that which was taken. I'm glad that he dispelled that really quick, because there would be like this. The community would basically make themselves all believe that that's what it's going to be. And then it would be like, oh, it's not that. And then there would be a thread on Reddit, angry Reddit thread.
Yeah.
So, So, yeah, the Scarabs are cool. And I want to talk about the League mechanic a little bit, actually, because the League mechanic, I wasn't that hyped about it until Mark was showing off the crafting things on Zizzer in the stream. And that looks insane. This crafting is going to be potentially on the level of kind of like Crucible / Harvest type power levels when you're getting up to that top tier, because he said there's crazy amounts of graves, and also something which Harvest didn't have, and obviously Crucible had a bit of this, was like the special unique modifiers that you can get. We can already see some of those on the reveal page. Like there's like a body armor with like a huge percentage of recoup. Yeah. There's a helmet with extra power charge. So I assume there's going to be those mods on pretty much every item type. And that if they're all that powerful, then there's going to be some really strong chase mods.
And I saw somebody saying that you can like fracture 6 mods up, like all your mods on an item. Was that total BS?
Yeah, like what is that? Like that is actually insane. Like multiple fractures. I mean, we haven't seen that since Sentinel, and that was difficult to get a good item, right? You'd constantly be chucking like good fractures at each other to try and get them combined. And now, I mean, with this new system, maybe you just immediately have like 2 good mods, 3 good mods fractured off the base. I mean, can you just imagine you have an item with 2 or 3 good fractures? Like, you're pretty much set at that point. Like, crafting it beyond that is just easy.
Oh, I'm going to be able to craft melee weapons with such ease, guys. It's going to be so nice, Well,
that was the first thing I thought of, actually. The first thing I thought of when I saw that crafting system was, wow, like, this is... Because that's one of the hardest things to craft in the game, is a good physical weapon. Like elemental weapons are pretty easy to craft, Physical weapons not very easy to craft at all. Occasionally Rog just comes along and says like, "Oh, here's triple tier 1 item," But You don't
know how happy that makes me, Dreamcore. I feel like I'm finally learning the mechanics of the game to hear that we had the same thought about something at
Yeah.
first. That's awesome.
Seriously, physical weapons are an absolute. I mean, yeah, you can ask Khan. He's been playing melee for
Right.
God knows how many leagues in a row. You can ask him.
Yeah.
Especially on League Start, right? Like that's the thing that I think, like you said, the initial reaction it seemed like for a lot of people was like, okay, this league mechanic's a bit meh. Like, it was just a bit like, okay, you run it every zone. You sort of, is it going to be annoying? Is it going to be like just in terms of the actual running of the mechanic, right? But I think once people have finally sunk in of like how crazy this crafting system is going to be, it's like you're 100%, you're going to be excited to look through that list and go, okay, yeah, which mods do I need to move where? I think yeah, there's some of like you said, some of the mods as well. I love what they did with where they've, depending on what content you run, you're getting like specific crafts off those corpses as well. And I think that's like a really interesting, clever way to tie it into the broader game at end game as well. Of like, I haven't got an example off the top of my head. I wish I did, but I remember seeing stuff.
I'm sure like the porcupines are probably going to be like the fractured mods to encourage people to run maps with porcupines. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Totally going to be it.
yeah. That makes total sense. Yeah.
Like I feel like they can tie. They're obviously going to tie like powerful crafts to powerful monsters, I presume. And then there's going to be some unique monsters too. And am I misremembering? Do we fight anything in the Necropolis graveyard? Or that doesn't happen. It's purely a crafting spot.
I don't think so.
Right? It's purely.
When they done the teaser, I was expecting like when the little ritual was going on with like the graves after the crafting and the guys like doing a chanting. I was expecting him to be summoning some kind of like monster that you fight, and then after you kill the monster, you get the weapon, right? So that was a little bit strange. I gotta say, I thought that was what it was going to be, but.
Yeah.
I don't really mind this kind of league mechanic where it's not too much of. It's not like in Affliction, you had to go into the Wildwood, you had to get as much wisps as you could. It was just, maybe occasionally you find different NPCs and buy some nice items and stuff. Yeah. Whereas with this one, it's going to be more like standard mapping. Yes, you do want to take a look at what mods are going on what monsters before you actually enter the map. Otherwise, you're going to get blown up a lot. But it is pretty straightforward mapping, I think, and you're just going to collect corpses, and then at some point you're going to go in there and you're going to do a nice crafting session. People are going to enjoy that. Like, you go in there and have a nice crafting session. Hopefully, get yourself some good items.
All right, Dreamcourt, you just said straightforward mapping. Come on, this league is going to be anything but, especially with T17s, with Brutus. Packs in T17s. What other packs are we going to find? And I assume that we do get to use the league mechanic in T17s. I believe that was shown. So maybe a lot of the powerful crafts are locked behind monster packs from T17 maps, like the Brutus pack that we saw. That could be it.
I can't wait for people to realize how dangerous monster bleeds are again with those Brutus mobs. They're just going to be. There's going to be so many clips on Reddit of people getting one shot by one Brutus pull from just one singular mob in the map.
Did you guys see how wild some of those map mods were? Like, I mean,
they're crazy. They're basically like Valdo's maps. They're like very similar to the mods on Valdo's maps. They are super dangerous. Yeah,
I'm wondering.
And they apply to the boss as well, which is like absurd.
I'm wondering, do you think that there's any realistic chance that there's like a void mod? Like a 1% roll for those T17s? What do you guys think? No?
I don't think so.
No? Zero chance of a 1% chance.
I think the Void mod was something that they added to the Valdos maps to make them very distinguished from the rest of the game. Like it's like a fun thing that like people contribute to. They've like purchased this option and now they can make like a really fun map.
Right.
And if those maps didn't have things like Void mobs, they would feel significantly less impactful, I think. It's just a really fun thing that enables them to just split that off entirely. And like, here's a Valdos map. Like, it's got a Mage Blood reward, but if you die, your character's gone. And whereas the core progression of Path of Exile is kept intact by the fact that there's no Void mods on the tier 17s, because, if someone's playing in softcore, they don't want to lose their character.
Right.
So I think that's fine because the Valdos maps are always like opt in. Like here's your reward, and
Right.
you're going to put this map into your device, and you want to go for that reward. You may just lose your character. As long as it's properly conveyed to people, I think it's fine.
Speaking on the Valdos just for one moment, we don't need to go into depth. Do you guys plan on getting one? I am like 95% that I want to get it using purely YouTube stuff. I just want to make one so badly. That'll be my biggest gaming purchase ever if I end up doing it. But what do you guys think?
I will vicariously enjoy your Valdos map. I will. I will. I don't want to give away too much, but there's plenty of other things right now that I could do with that yeah. But yeah, no, I would almost be a bit nervous, dude. Like just
Gotta be a
creating
good
one, I'd
one.
be like, yeah, I'd get all like in my head, like, is this the best one I could have made?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think I currently have like the tier one set from the new core supporter
Just like
packs.
3 more upgrades, Dreamcore. 3 more.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, look, the way I do supporter packs is, you know, if there's a really good league, if I really enjoyed the league, I'll probably get a supporter pack if I like it. I think that's kind of the way that most people do it. Some people go into a league and they're like, oh, they're really hyped for it, and they buy a supporter pack. That's not the way to do it.
Yeah.
No, buy after you play. Like,
Yes.
you know,
I used to
the
be
league
like
is
that.
being, you know, the league's being presented. Okay, yeah, it looks nice, but you don't know what it's going to be like at launch. Maybe we have a terrible launch. You know, maybe there's something going on. You know,
But
so
the turtle. But the turtle.
oh, the
okay. Have you guys got the turtle?
The turtle is amazing though. Yeah, it is.
I don't
really
have the
good.
turtle, no.
Honestly, no, nor have I. I think, what's it? Valina had a guy I saw in her recent video, and I was like so jealous immediately. It's the coolest thing. I think it's one of the coolest things they've ever done.
It's a condensed hideout too, which I'm a fan of. It's not like
Yeah.
sprawling or anything. It's that nice circular layout. It's like Veritania's tower and everything. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah.
So
Super cool.
I might be
The
grabbing
turtle
that.
is really cool. Like that is probably the coolest MTX that I've seen in this game.
Do you know what, on that quick, it's just made me think about what do you guys think about the challenge rewards this league? Like I personally, my immediate thought was like, these are pug. Like I love the whole how unique the look of it is. It feels like it just feels really unique as opposed to like cool glowing weapon and wings, you know? And I think on top of that as well, like I think I might be wrong, but I think this is the first time we've had the like premium MTX functionality put into a challenge reward. You know, like your gloves do this, it turns your like drops into trash bags, and like, you know, that stuff was usually reserved for obviously like the supporter pack stuff, the higher tier stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what you guys thought. I thought it was amazing, the challenges.
Dream?
Yeah, I really like that they're not really flashy, like you said. They're not
Yeah.
like giant like disco balls and everything, you know, confetti everywhere and stuff like that. They look really cool. I'm not really a big challenges guy. Like I basically will complete challenges naturally and don't really go for them. But I mean that doesn't mean that the set's bad or anything. I think they're cool. They look cool, and they look like more of a natural fit into the game. You know, some of the things, some MTX are not really a very natural fit into the game, but I mean, maybe people like those sort of things, so that's fine. But
I think they're keeping in mind for a lot of these challenge rewards that they're also going to be in PoE 2. And a lot of people might wear them as, you know, like, oh yeah, I was in
100%.
PoE 1 in this league and I got all these challenges, and they want them to look good. I'm a huge fan of the set and the effects. Like the set is, I think it's ugly, but I don't care. Like it's so unique. So I'm going to definitely wear that. Also 40 out of 40. Let's go. Come on, everybody. Let's go. 40 out of 40 challenges every league.
Let's go.
Yeah. Big fan of it. And that also brings me to just a little point I wanted to touch on about PoE 2. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it. Because if I ever get the chance to talk to Jonathan again, I want to bring this up. In another game I play, Guild Wars 2, you have the option to make all other character models standard models, like they have their standard gear. It's like an option and something, and they have a lot of MTX in that game as well. That's how they make all their money. I wonder if GGG would ever consider doing something like that so that you could keep the aesthetic of like PoE 1 or PoE 2 and not have all this crazy crap everywhere. Because I know, of course, they want to sell it, they want to showcase it in towns, but having that option, you know, buried away for people who really want it, Oh man, I think that'd be great, especially for PoE 2. What do you guys think about that?
Ooh. This is, I think this is a bit of a contentious one, weirdly. Like, it's not an important thing, I know, and I know you're not saying
really.
it is, like, but it is a weird one. It comes down to such like personal preference, like, because everyone's got a different idea of what like cool MTX is, right? Some people want to play like the Death Lord Reaper that like, you know, like I don't know, glows the entire map with like ghostly green effects. And everyone else is like, no, I just want my cool like, you know, Falcon helmet or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a weird one. I know like they were like, okay, we're gonna have Razer logos in PoE 2. Like we can't stop that.
The
And I
footprints.
just yeah, exactly, right? Like, so yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, that very early in PoE 1, you could get, there was like a Razer like bundle, like a promotional thing, and you got a Razer logo footstep.
Yeah.
This is like obviously a pretty well-known meme in the game and stuff, but yeah, like they can't stop that, and so to your point, I don't know. Like the problem is if you can turn it off for everyone, I feel like that might become a default for many people, and then the incentive to buy an MTX for the people that like really like showing off that they've spent money on stuff, you know, the status game of it and things, then goes down. And like if I was, this is such a boring thing to say, but if like I was sitting in a business meeting, I'd probably be like, that 2.5% of like MTX sale loss probably isn't worth it.
Very
Because
logical.
that's
Very
about
logical.
15 million quid probably a year or
Yeah,
something.
I don't see them doing it because it's one of those things where, you know, someone sees someone else's very cool MTX and now they're like interested
Yeah.
in it and now they're going to search where they get it from and stuff. So
Right.
Yeah.
like
Okay.
yeah, okay, you have to opt into that option, but I think it's one of those things where they probably would do something like that if enough people like complained about it and if there was like really bad stability and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
That
realistically,
makes sense.
the better solution is just to implement MTX that doesn't create stability problems, right? I mean,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
just
I've just seen in chat someone talking about the little goblin things. That I can get behind, right? That should not be a thing. Like, so shut
Are
up.
those? That's current era, right? That's not last era. That's in
How do you
this
mean?
era of the yearly supporter packs, the goblins.
Oh, I
I
don't
think
know. I actually don't know.
feel like they are. I feel like that's a new edition. I think it's from ExileCon.
is there
Nice.
an option to mute like player sounds?
No,
No,
no.
this
That
is the
should be an
problem.
option.
Yeah.
That absolutely should be an option. That also exists in Guild Wars 2, by the way. There's a way
Yep.
to lower
Yep.
player instrument sounds because
Yeah.
there's instruments in Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, only
People playing
instruments.
instruments in town.
Not the
So
freaking dreamer, the
yeah,
unicorn
yeah, exactly.
bow.
Yeah.
Screw that. I hate it. And Quip in Guild Wars 2 for any Guild Wars 2 players out there.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that was a good look at Path of Exile 1 right now. Did you guys have any lasting points that you wanted to touch on before we do some juicy PoE 2 discussion? It'll be brief, really brief.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of got like a weird PoE 2, PoE 1 hybrid thing. So I'll just like, I'll let you lead on that. Like, yeah, maybe it'll make sense in a minute.
All right, Dream, you got anything else you want to talk on PoE 1?
Nope, I'm good. Let's get into PoE2.
All right. Okay, so PoE 2 delayed, sensible, completely sensible. Full disclosure, I got to play it. I think it was a good decision. The confidence that GGG had in the 3 classes they showed was pretty good, but there are 9 other character classes, and the way that they're designing PoE 2 is attaching, you know, skills to character classes, even though we get to use any skill as any character, right? And those 3 classes, I talked to Jonathan. He's like, yeah, these are the ones we're confident in right now. We spent the last 2 months polishing Act 1, Act 2, these 3 character classes. And we realized if we want to get this out by June, we're going to need to, like, you know, he didn't say this exactly, but he was like, you know, double workforce. Everyone's going to be crunched. It's going to be absolute hell for us. And that is not a company I want to run. I want to be able to cook, essentially, and not have everybody super stressed. These past 2 months have been hell for us. We don't want that to happen again. And that's why they've delayed it. I don't think there's any ulterior motive behind it. They just want to make the best game possible, which is great. I respect them. I think a lot of other companies would have released PoE 2 a year ago or a year and a half ago and just said, oh, we'll cook during launch or cook during patch 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So yeah, that was the one big announcement. But what did you guys think about the delay? Differing thoughts?
Go for it, Dream.
I'm of the opinion that if a delay is necessary, then it's necessary at the end of the day. Like, they want to, as you say, they want to make the best product. If that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. I mean, yes, other studios would have released the game, or at least released the beta. I mean, I'd say other studios wouldn't be doing this kind of beta thing. They would just release the game to early access, and it would be broken, and they would basically sell the game, and that's what we like about GDG, right? They want to test things, get players' feedback with PoE 2, and then actually implement the changes that people want to see. And they're not kind of selling the game up front. That's the other thing, right? It's not like an early access pre-sale game or whatever.
True.
It's here's the game. It's not good enough yet, so we're going to go back and work on it for a while.
That's such a good point, man.
Perfectly
oh my
reasonable.
God, they haven't even done any like pre-release beta packs or any of that stuff. Oh man, other companies would 100% do that. That's crazy. I just realized.
Yeah,
because it's still happening this year. I'm pretty confident it'll go into early access this year. Sometimes people go like 2-3 years. They're like, yeah, get ready to pre-purchase. We'll release in a few years, guys. Let's go.
I mean, that's been the meta for the last few years, right? Yeah. Early access games, like Steam is plagued with them. Early access games. Some of them are really good, but most of them are they have a good game concept, a good idea, and then they sell the game to their audience, and then at that point they've got everybody's money. Sure. So, and it's usually a case of like, here's a huge streamer comes along, like Asmongold, for example, plays one of these games on stream, and obviously loads of people buy the game at that point.
Yep. Yeah.
But like, for example, there's one on Steam right now. It's called Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. You've probably seen some streamers playing it, like Quinn played it, Asmongold's played it. I bought that game. That's in early access. It's very cheap on Steam, and it's really good. And they're like shipping updates to it all the time. Like, it's a really good game. But yes, there are some early access games where they take the opportunity that, that basically they've had their peak at that point, and they don't really need to develop the game anymore because they're not getting much out of it. So yeah, I think that's a bit of a problem right now, and I think the way GGG are doing it is a lot more admirable, because they're basically saying, here's a product that we're not happy with, and we're going to work on it until we're happy with it, and everybody else is happy with it. Basically, that's their goal there.
Right. Jonathan said it very well. If we find a game that we want to make within the game we are making, we're going to make that better new game, and we're not going to say, we'll just push that off. We'll just do it a different time. Silver, what's your take on it, and what was your PoE 1, PoE 2 thought? I'm really curious. What's been cooking in your head?
Okay, so first off on this, on the delay and stuff, like, yeah, just 100% echo what you guys are saying. You've kind of said it all. Like, I'm a really big believer in that you should look at people's actions and not what they say. And I think as a community, as gamers, we've seen that play out so many times in the wrong, in reverse. And we've believed what people have said and maybe not gone by the actions. So yeah, that like they're just living up to what they're saying. And I love that phrase that he used that you just said, Try, where it's like, yeah, like if we're finding a better game in the game, like that just seems like what a game designer should be free to do. And this idea of like, let them cook, it's like, you want them to come into the office every day and go, oh yeah, like now we can add active block. But what if we did like timed parrying? No, that's great. Like that. Don't talk about that, because so many studios would go like, I say this sometimes in my videos, but my housemate's a game developer, and he works. I won't say what title it is, but it's a fairly big title. Like, it's pretty successful, and he talks a lot about like production, the contention between production and design. And he's a developer, and so like he's very involved in like the fix stuff and like add new features. And yeah, it's like you want the intentions. It kind of goes back to what I said earlier. You want the incentives to be aligned. So we want GGG as a community to turn up to the office every day and go, how could we make this better? Like, yeah. Let's not worry about the time thing too much. Like, we know we've got to get it out. We know people are excited. And you could tell Jonathan was so gutted. So gutted. You could tell in that interview with you that he was so gutted that he had to delay it. But like, yeah, let's just give him breathing room, because that's what's ultimately going to make the most interesting game for us. So that's my 2 cents on that. Yeah, like, I agree with everything you guys are saying. Let him cook. TLDR, let him cook. And then Yeah, the PoE 1, PoE 2 thing's a little bit of a tangent that I was thinking about, but
Yeah.
so it's about the league and the crafting system. So in the demo that in the footage that we got from yourself and the other creators from the LA weekend, it came out, and then you talked about it in your interview with Jonathan about item tiering, right? We're getting like item tiers in PoE 2, and they'll drop unidentified as like tier 2, tier 3 up to tier 5, right? This is like the current system. They're probably going to have a different icon for it, he was saying, and stuff like that. But the idea being that the higher the tier, the more likely you are to get better rolls on that item, right? This is like the simple idea. Okay, then I was like looking at the stuff around Necropolis and the crafting system in there, and how Mark was talking about like rating values, and how like, okay, so you can put plus 100 physical rating value or plus 100 like speed values or something like that. I can't remember the exact name of the mods. And it made me think, just like they did the test with like gold in Ruthless, right? Like Ruthless with gold. Is this a league where they're testing, like pseudo testing their new PoE 2 item tier system, but just in a very different skin? So all of the mechanics and the weights and biases that they've created to create the tiers within PoE 2, are they then these mods that we've now got available on the Gravecrafts, like plus 100 rating for this? And are they essentially doing a mass scale test of this item system without anyone knowing?
You might
That's
be
my
onto
theory.
something. I mean, especially because if you look at how well developed the UI is for this league, it almost seems like it might have been in development for quite some time, and they've been known to pull stuff from PoE 2 and put it in PoE 1 early. I think that's very plausible. Yeah, I do. Dreamcore, what do you think?
Maybe.
I think that a lot of the things since they announced Path of Exile 2, and maybe even before that, have been tests for Path of Exile 2. Like, I think most of the systems that they put in the game are like small little tests in one way or another.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a test exactly for Path of Exile 2, it's just they're always able to collect information from these leagues. What was good, what was bad about it, and I mean that partly that's why I think recent leagues have been okay with we had Crucible, but apart from Crucible, recent leagues have been really good, and I think that in a way they can take what's been good before and just kind of reiterate on it, over and over again, because that's kind of what people love in Path of Exile. It's just here's a league, it's a fresh start. A lot of things are very similar, and that we do have that. There's systems that are very, very similar with each other, but they're like a fresh spin on it or something. Like this league is a new crafting system. Yes, it will make really powerful items, but in that sense, it's not that dissimilar from like Harvest, for example, or even like Crucible. You're just going to make some really crazy items. Like there's going to be insane items this league. Everybody knows it. Like people are going to crack the code. Like there's going to be people going just crazy on this. So yeah, like you said though, the whole item tiering thing. Yeah, it's very possible that they're using this as a test because they can get a lot of information from that without really damaging the game, so to speak, right? They can go into Path of Exile 2 with the system already in place that they're quite confident with, because it's already worked on a mass scale, in Path of Exile 1. So yeah, that makes sense, I think.
That's the theory. And then maybe we take that idea even further. Maybe also the way that we're choosing monsters in the maps is another test, right? Like this is I'm totally going out on a limb here, right? This isn't but maybe the way that we choose our maps and affect our maps, and we know they want to give us more agency in PoE 2 in the end game, and that's only been shown in how they're giving us more options in the Atlas tree in PoE 1. Maybe there's something there where it's like you're picking maps. And just as a side to that, like, what do you guys think of the idea of like a Pokédex in
Please
PoE?
do it.
It would be awesome, right? Like they've got all this information now. It'd be so useful to figure out, like, what, especially on hardcore, I think, and for new players. Like, I don't know, and also just collecting them all, right?
Account bound though. Don't do this league reset thing. If they do something like that, that would be such a spectacular like account level sort of thing, like achievements. Oh, I mean, people would love it.
Just a fun thing.
That would be a cool addition, I think. Some kind of system where you can like, you basically like kill a monster and you get like information on that monster saved to this thing that you can always see. It's always visible. Like you come across, like for example, a new player comes across like the Shaper for the first time, right? They kill the Shaper, and now they get this information in this book that tells you, you know, this guy's his slam is very dangerous. They probably already know that because they've died to it, right, 15 times. But yes, like that sort of information would be really good. Speaking of Pokedex, though, there should be a Pokedex in the game for specifically for specters. Specters are one of those things that there should be this thing in the game where hit for, but obviously there's the mechanic in the game with Desecrate and Rage Spectre where you have some corpses saved to your Desecrate corpse pool.
Yeah.
You should be able to see that in like a UI that shows you these are the corpses that I have saved. And also, you know, if you actually have minions raised, you should be able to open a UI that says, here's the minions, this is what they do. Like that. It doesn't need to be really in-depth information, but that's something that I think would be really, really useful. Like it just...
100.
And also, it's a feature that people have asked for a long time ago, by the way, like the whole Spectre UI thing. But
We now know. Someone in chat or one of us, bingo card. Send it to Mark. We're good. It'll get in the game, 2-3 leagues down the line. Okay?
Yeah.
That'll be a great feature for sure.
Oh yeah. That's awesome. Great ideas, you guys. Oh my. That was a good tangent. That was a very good tangent. Yeah, one of the things that I really respect about GGG, and I know they're a smaller company, so they're probably able to do this, is that they seem to learn from their past mistakes that they've made over the past decade, and they don't really forget them for the most part. But long-running franchises, that's not the case because the developers churn so often. So
yeah,
I'm not bashing or anything, but it's like the people who worked on D1, D2 weren't the people who worked on D3, and the people who worked on D3 didn't learn on D4. So none of those people really seem to take the lessons that all the other development teams learned to heart. Jonathan Rogers founded GGG with Chris Wilson. He's leading PoE 2. Mark Roberts has been working there for like, what, 7 years now, 8 years now? He started as QA. He used to test the game, and now he's the game director for the game he used to test for. I mean, all these people, they're so long running, long standing. They've learned so many lessons, and they're really trying to reorient the game in the direction they see as positive. Mark Roberts especially. Yeah, I'm just going to shout him out. He is... The way he conducted himself with Zizrin in his first one-on-one interview was just spectacular. And the future of PoE 1 is very bright. I hope doomers and gloomers are no longer thinking, oh, PoE 1's done for. It's totally done. Oh, we're screwed. That was an awesome interview. And this update, I mean, we're going to be eating very well. It's going to be super
it gave
fun.
me a huge amount of confidence in Path of Exile 1 development, I think. That one interview.
100%.
It's just... It's not like I didn't have confidence in the development, because I don't know how you could have a lack of confidence with the recent leaks we've been having. Like, these recent leaks have just been insanely good. Like, I mean, okay, I know that Trial of the Ancestors league mechanic was a little bit of... Some people loved it, some people hated it, but the thing is, every league that they've been developing, there's like continuous additions to the core gameplay loop, which that exists in the end game, which is the best part of Path of Exile. In this league, we're getting more things. We're getting obviously the big scarab change. There's the Atlas trees being shaken up once again. They just continuously add and reiterate on the best system in Path of Exile, which is the end game. Like if you haven't got to the end game in Path of Exile, like if the camp, that is the game. Like, yes, the leagues have been hit and miss historically in the past. Crucible was bad. Lake of Calandra was kind of mid. But yes, okay. What I like about GGG is they can just say, okay, we're going to throw something at the wall and see if it sticks with a league mechanic. They've afforded themselves the ability to do that because the core game is so good.
Yeah.
Like they can test these crazy league mechanics. I mean, look at Tota. Like, who knew that would work in Path of Exile? Some people thought it was trash, by the way, but they still played the game and they enjoyed tattoos because the core game is still good. I quite liked Tota. I thought it was quite fun, right? But the idea there that they can just come in, say, okay, here's a crazy idea for a league. That's what we're going with. And they've got confidence that the league is still going to be successful. The release is still going to be successful because the core game is great. That's just, that's what they've afforded themselves with the development of the game over the years.
100%. And with all this, I think they're just wins from them, especially the past month, and this last announcement week has just been great for them. I'm really curious to close out our discussion today, you guys. It's been great. I feel like a golden era for like PoE is almost coming up with all these improvements to like PoE 1, with this embrace of communicating with the community again, with this rebranded GGG Live that they're seeming to do. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that we're just going to have good times ahead, essentially, for, you know, PoE 1, PoE 2, whatever else that company decides to do? Silver.
Oh, whatever else that company decides to do. That's
Yeah,
a
I
very
don't know.
leading statement.
They've got a mobile game cooking.
A PoE 2 trading card game. Let's go. Like I'm personally a big fan of that. They've already got the systems, but no. Taking your point seriously. Look, I think this is getting a little bit. I get a bit emotional sometimes, guys. Okay, I get a little bit like passionate about this game and stuff, and I get a bit poetic. But for me, as a gamer, I feel that I actually think you're right. We're at the start of like a golden age of PoE 2, and like with PoE 2 coming out and PoE 1, I think Mark has shown that in the recent interview that he's passionate and he wants to like make strides in that game. And I remember playing PoE back in the day, and I didn't realize what I was onto. Like when it kind of just come out, it just launched like 1.0, and it was exciting, and there was this buzz around it and this community building around it. And for the last 10 years, I've like really enjoyed the game, and I don't think I always appreciate how well they've done as a company. Like we say it, and I know we say it on the you know, in content, and we talk about it and stuff, and we are all big fans, but it's rare. You know, sometimes you don't realize till later that you're in like a rare thing. And I have, so to sum all that up, I suppose I have a feeling that in like 5 years, hopefully, you know, us three will be sitting here with a few more grey hairs, talking about this, you know, this moment, and how like, yeah, do you remember like when we had that chat about at the start of, you know, the PoE 2 era and this new era. And I've got a sneaking suspicion that it's going to be like a glorious thing. So yeah, I just feel like we're at the start of an amazing wave that's coming for the game, and they've got the team, like you said, they've got the team in place, and they've got that kind of apprenticeship model of bringing people up. Like, let's just also, I just want to do this just to give a shout out to Octavian. Octavian was just, you know, it was a creator like us, and was passionate about the game, was a player, and then joined in QA, and just like Mark did. And now, you know, all of the scarabs, essentially, I think this is what Mark said, essentially all of the scarab designs were done by Octavian. And so, like, I think we just, that in of itself is incredibly exciting, and is a model for long-term success of like building talent within the team, apprenticing those people, like giving them, you know, just like I'm sure Mark did with Jonathan and Chris. So yeah, I'm gonna stop. But
that was beautiful. No, that was beautiful,
yeah.
man. And you brought up how 1.0 was a magical moment for a lot of people. You know, the people who were playing, the developers. I think that was my favorite moment and the most wholesome moment from my interview with Jonathan, where he said, you know, I'm excited for PoE 2 because it's going to be so beautiful, you know, to play the game with everyone at the start, to watch people discover all this stuff we put in, to be in the chat, to be in the game, you know. That's just awesome. So yeah, that's beautiful, Silver. Totally agree with you. Dreamcore, what are your thoughts? Close us out, essentially.
I think we're already in. I think we're already in that. I don't think we're entering it. I think we're already in there, because we have had like the last several leagues that just feel like they're like a step up, and I just think that the way they have been developing leagues recently, it gives me massive confidence in every other release that comes after that one. You know, it's like there's, as I said, they're not afraid to try things. And yes, I'm under no illusion, like there are going to be leagues in the future that are a flop. Okay, that's going to happen. Like, leagues are going to come out. They're going to be received not very well. But at the end of the day, I think if you're someone who enjoys Path of Exile and you love the endgame right now, then you're going to be there every league playing the endgame. Good league or bad league, you're going to be there because they're going to continuously iterate on that endgame. Are we going to get new bosses at some point? Surely we will get new bosses at some point. You know, it's been a long time. Obviously, we're getting the tier 17 bosses, but they're like reused, reused assets in a way. But
are you sure about that? What the expedition? Who's Ulroth? I don't think I've ever seen him before. So
he's an expedition boss.
Totally a new boss. No one's seen him.
Yeah,
well,
this is the problem.
You know
no
what?
one has.
That is such a good thing that they're bringing that as more.
It is
because it's such a cool fight. That is a really, really cool boss fight.
The mirror.
Also, predictions on the last tier 17 boss.
Ooh, shit. Okay,
so we have.
let's take a second.
One boss is Katarina and the 3 Abyssal Liches. One boss is Lycia and Baidat.
One is a heist / synthesis.
Oh
boss.
yeah, it's the Unbreakable.
Yep.
Yeah. And the one we were just talking about. So there's one missing.
Which league? And Lycia can summon like Baidat, right? So it's the Scourge bosses too, perhaps.
Yeah, it could be.
Like they're pairing and stuff as well. Like, so I don't know. Like Delph. We've got like, got
Uber Owl. I've never fought Owl, you guys.
I don't know if
I
you
think
guys
a lot
saw.
of people haven't.
I made a video on the uniques, right? Because we actually know the uniques that are going to be dropping from those bosses.
Oh.
And in the preview, they done the Mana Storm Shield while they were sitting in the Expedition boss's lair, right? So, and then they also had the Spectre helmet, and that's related to Abyss, and the Katarina fight is with the Abyssal Liches, so that one probably drops from there, right? That's 2 of the drops. Now, I kind of theory crafted a little bit that the one item that is left is an item called Malachi's Mark. It's a pair of gloves. Could it be Uber Malachi? I mean, that would be absolutely insane if it's Uber Malachi.
No, Uber Malachi, Uber Dominus. Mark literally was talking about that 4 months ago.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh God, can you imagine? Yeah. Can you imagine
those two
like,
together would be absolutely brutal. Those two together, my God.
Dreamcore called it, guys. When you log in and you get to that tier 17 map, that's Uber Malachi and Uber Dominus. No, Dreamcore called it. So
it's all my fault.
YouTube, I was here.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool, you guys. Oh, I'm so excited for this league, PoE 2. It's a very exciting time, truly. Okay. This has been swell, everyone. Could you both give me an outro? Shout out your channels. We've got around 300 people on Twitch. I don't know how many on YouTube, but now's your chance. Silver, could you start us off?
Sure thing, yeah. My name is SilverXYZ. You can find me at SilverXYZ everywhere. Pretty new content creator to the space. Super inspired by what everyone else is doing. And I do a lot of like theory crafting, a bit of art design stuff, coming up with like the Ascendancy ideas, maybe what we might get for Ascendancies in PoE 2, as well as just general kind of PoE stuff. Going to be live streaming for the first time this league. Very excited about that. So yeah, would love to see you in the comments and have a chat anytime. So cheers.
Silver is selling himself a little bit short. His Ascendancies look like they're out of Path of Exile. Seriously, guys.
Yeah,
they're phenomenal.
Incredible quality. Yeah,
Seriously.
incredible quality on those Ascendancy theory crafts. They're insane.
I really wanted to ask Jonathan if he saw them at all, but I decided not to. Maybe if I get another interview, I'm gonna poke on and be like, "Hey, have you seen the veteran? What's going on here?" That's awesome. Thanks, Silver.
I'll blush.
Awesome talking to you, Dreamcore.
Yes.
Where can we find you?
Yeah, Dreamcore_GG on YouTube and Twitter or X, whatever you like to call it these days. I do mostly theory craft, mechanics explained, interactions, that kind of stuff. So if you guys want to know how something works, that's where you could usually find those sort of things. I like to focus on defenses a lot, which I think is something that not too many channels do. So that's what I like to talk about the most.
Yeah, thanks so much for breaking down Uber Joe from Quinn. I don't know if you saw.
What a build. What a build.
I don't know if you saw, but on stream yesterday, he was reacting to a hate video, and your video about his build popped up on screen, and he was like, "This guy stole my build," and then he said, "Oh my gosh, no, he's talking about my build. How cool is this?" I don't know if you saw that, but
that's
Yeah.
cool.
it was
I
super cool.
actually get a lot of because I do a lot of those build breakdowns. I get a lot of comments from people like asking me like, you know, is this build going to work in the new league? I'm like, I mean, I don't know. Like I made this thing, you know, a couple months ago.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to go and ask that guy. He was the one who
Right.
played the build.
Yeah, 100%.
No, your content, dude, is like I always watch your content because you basically explain it to me. Like I literally feel like I'm watching something like, you know, Defenses for Dummies. Like it's I'm not saying that's what you're making, but to me, I'm like, thank you, Dreamcore. Cheers.
Well, I
didn't
want to be.
understand it.
I think a lot of these mechanics get skimmed over so easily. It's like you know,
Yeah.
there's so many complex mechanics in Path of Exile, and it's so easy to skim over them. Like so many build guides will just skim over things completely. It just be like, just use this and use this, and then the person doesn't know why they're using it, so they don't learn why they're using it, and then you know they can't implement that in future builds or whatever. So
You're our savior.
yeah.
Truly, man. Everybody here, if you haven't seen his content already, please go check it out. Subscribe to both of these guys' YouTube channels. And I'm Talkative Try. You can find me on YouTube and obviously this Twitch channel. So thank you all so
Yeah, the
much
most
for
positive
watching.
person in the space.
The most positive exile we know.
Thank you. That's so
Dude,
kind.
and also like great interview with Jonathan, by the way. Like it was such a good moment. It was so fun being in the chat. And yeah, I know you've heard this 100 times, but yeah, you smashed it, man. Congrats.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that, you guys. Okay, I think that's all for this one. Hopefully we can chat again, maybe during the league, assuming everything goes well. This was really nice. So yeah, that's it. Let's sign off. Tala Kuras, Exiles.